2, 1. Hello, welcome to another episode with Rosie, your realtor. Today I have Brian Nomi he is an attorney, going to talk to us about tenant rights or evictions. Hi, Brian.
Hello, Rosie. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on here. I know that you stay very busy, especially these days.
Yes.
So go ahead. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Brian.
All right. My name is Brian Nomi. My business is the Law Office of Brian Nomi. I'm a sole proprietor. I do have people that work for me and with me, but it's mostly just me. I am a native Ventura County person. I was born in Oxnard. My family has been in Oxnard for almost 100 years or so. But I moved to Camarillo when I was a young fellow. Went to UC Santa Barbara. Then I went away for a few years to do law school at the University of Minnesota and go on a few places with the Army. But I've been back in Ventura County for most of my life, the majority of my life. So I'm a very Ventura County person. I love Ventura County. I've been a lawyer for 30 years, and I'm good at what I do, I think. And I'm happy to help my clients that I deal with. So especially with relating to real estate. My particular focus is landlord tenant right now. Right now, landlord tenant is just gigantic for me. I only work for landlords. I only work for property managers, landlords, people who are owning and renting out property. That's my main focus right now. That's what consumes most of my time.
And it's keeping you very busy, right?
Very much. So, very much.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Excuse me, because I know I personally ran into some tenants that feel they don't even have to pay rent right now, and they just get a free ride, which obviously, especially those mom and pop shops, I mean, that puts them in a very bad position when they're still making their mortgage. And for some, like, they need that rent payment. So tell me a little bit more about that and how you're dealing a lot with that right now.
Well, to really answer your question well, I'd have to go back in time 2 years when the COVID moratorium hit.
Yes.
March 2020, April of 2020, that's when businesses shut down. Everyone was told to stay at home. The courts closed down. From March of 2020 until September 2020, there were 0 eviction cases in Ventura County. So there were a lot of tenants who were paying 0 rent, a lot of tenants who were selling drugs or shooting at people with guns, and they were not being kicked out of their houses for 6 months during the year 2020. Now that changed in September of 2020. And since September of 2020, I've just been busy trying to find ways for landlords to avoid having a tenant who's abusing the system by either not paying the rent or by breaking the lease or by doing illegal things. And I would say that's my specialty. I do more evictions than anyone else in Ventura County. And I'm very good at finding ways for landlords to get solutions to problems with tenants who for whatever reason are either breaking the lease by having unusual, weird people live with them, by not taking care of the property, by not paying rent, by doing criminal actions at the property, all sorts of things that traditionally have never been a problem. If tenants do any of those things, we can kick them out. Since 2020, it's been a little more difficult. 2 things happened in 2020. The first thing is COVID hit in 2020. And so there was a statewide moratorium, which is only now being lifted. It's still partially in place even now today. I could explain that more. But the second thing that happened in 2020 is the California legislature enacted statewide rent control, which I call it the Rent Cap Just Cause, or AB 1482. I'm just going to call it Rent Cap Just Cause. In certain situations, landlords cannot raise rent beyond 5% plus the consumer price index, and they cannot terminate a tenancy except for certain causes. Primarily, it applies to multifamily properties, such as apartment buildings or triplexes or income properties like that. It does not apply to mom and pops that own condos or single family homes. So that's the big exception for that. But that's what people need to be aware of, and I think a lot of people are not aware of, especially the mom and pop real estate owners. Those are the people who I think need the most education. So I just talked about a lot. I'll let you have a chance, Rosie, to tell me what you think is most interesting, what your listeners would like to hear the most about, because I could talk for hours about this, and I have talked for hours about this. What can we educate your folks about the most?
Yeah, well, right now, probably just, I know we're actually dealing a case together right now,
Yeah.
I have landlords that I've literally gotten listings because they call me and they say, is there anything you can do? Every other realtor is telling me they can't help me and they haven't paid me or they're doing this. I said, well, no, there is certain reasons why you can absolutely still evict someone. I know last year I was successful in getting people out because they were selling it. And as long as the new owner was moving in, we had the right to sell it. So we just had to be careful in picking our offers. But I mean, tell me what you're seeing, or some of those reasons why somebody could evict a tenant right now.
Right now, as of March 31st, 2021, the tenants have to pay rent. That was the official end. The California State Housing is Key rent relief program is accepting no more rent relief applications as of March 31st. So if a tenant has not paid April rent, we're just doing standard 3-day pay or quit notices again on those. So April 1st and on, the tenant may not have paid rent for the last year, but we're just making it simple. We're going after them for April and now May rent, and we're serving 3-day pay or quits. So that's a right that you now have. You are no longer required to do the whole housing is key thing. The housing is key rent relief took 4 to 5 months, by the way, to process rent relief, and a lot of times there would be no payment for a variety of reasons. Most commonly because the tenant would not cooperate with the housing is key program. That's the most common thing that I saw. So that's the number one thing I want landlords to know is if the tenant does not pay rent now, kick them out with a 3-day pay or quit. That's the number one thing. The number two thing that I want your clients to know is if you're a mom and pop owner, make sure that your lease is up to date. This is something that so many of my clients are getting wrong. If you have not incorporated the 2020 law into your new lease, you can do it. You can still do it. You can do a change of terms of tenancy. That's CAR form CTT, along with a notice of exemption, which would be the RCJC form. Those are all California Association of Realtor forms. You can make your lease into a new modern lease by waiving the rent cap and just cause law. If you're going to do a new lease, for heaven's sakes, make sure that you're doing a year 2020 or later version of the lease, which incorporates all these things in there already. So the problem that I see is that mom and pop landlords go to Staples and they buy a form lease, or they go to the internet and they get some lease from some guy in New York or whatever, and it doesn't do any of the things that need to be done under California law. The lease is either out of date or it's incomplete or whatever. It says how much the rent is, it says what the address is, and it has a bunch of other legal mumbo jumbo, but it is not geared up to the California rent cap just cause law. And therefore the landlords are screwing themselves by not having the correct lease form. So that's the number one. If you remember nothing else, just remember, get the correct lease. Either use the CAR form lease that's most current, or update your lease. And by the way, I will help anyone who asks me for free with the CTT and RCJC forms, so you can update your lease. That's easy. Any real estate agent that knows what they're doing should be able to help you with that too. But that's a simple thing to do that a lot of people are not doing. So get the education about that. Anyway, any follow-ups on that before I dive into my next thing?
No, I think that's great because, even me being in the industry, I'm a big advocate for getting help, especially the mom and pops that they're not up to date with the laws like you, myself, right, or, the property management companies. And even I once had to take someone full onto court because I didn't necessarily have the tools to run their background checks. So I'm a big advocate for using a property management. I mean, I have my area, just like you, that I specialize in. I want to deal with that. It's worth the money. And also, most importantly, I know Janet says as well, is treat it like a business. Treat it like a business, especially with all the laws changing. It needs to be a business. It's a big investment. So I absolutely agree. Get help. Go ahead. So you had something else? Go ahead.
I mean, treat it like a business is exactly the right mindset. If you rent out to someone and they're not paying you the rent, if you rent it out to someone, they're breaking the lease, you need to just terminate them, even if they're nice people, even if they have kids or whatever.
Even if they're family.
Even if they're your own family.
Sadly, we have the most issues with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They think we
owe them all the time. Yeah. I mean, I see family members that let other family members move into their house for free. And then guess what? It turns into a big problem. And lots of money gets spent on lawyers, unfortunately. So anyway, there are other ways to terminate a tenancy besides non-payment of rent, which is if you are a single family or condo homeowner and you've properly done the lease forms, you can kick them out for any reason. All you have to do is give a 30-day notice if they've been there for less than a year, or a 60-day notice if they've been there for more than a year, and the tenant has to vacate. And that's the easiest way to kick someone out of a property. It's much easier. Here's the problem. Someone says the tenants are selling drugs at my property. Okay, well, that is a good reason to kick someone out, but then you have to prove that in court. And guess what? All the neighbors are going to say, I don't want to get involved. So it's really hard to kick someone out for doing drugs in your property or selling drugs or, whatever other criminal conduct is happening. If you give a 30 or 60-day notice, surefire winner, as long as you've done the forms correctly. If it's a multifamily property, such as duplexes in which the owner does not live, triplexes or other multifamily properties, there's still ways to get people out. You have to have the main exemptions to that would be owner intends to sell. That's one reason. There's
that one's a big one for me.
Yeah, substantial demolition or remodeling of the property. That's another one. Or owner has family member that's going to move into the property. Those require that you give the tenant 1 month free rent as rental assistance, which to me is not a big deal. 1 month free rent, no problem. During the COVID thing, that was the only way to get people out. So we were using all of those a lot. But those were available, and people need to know what they are, especially if they're multifamily type properties. If they're single family or condos, again, just don't give any reason. That's the better way to do it. Just, hey, I want you out because I want you out. The law allows that. That's fine. And the last thing I'm going to preach about is the city of Oxnard has a new rent relief and rent protection law that is going into effect on June 4th or June 5th or something like that. Janet Sprisler of 805 Real Estate is the expert on this. She knows more than I do. I'm trying to get up to speed. The law is not even final yet. It's still being implemented. So we don't have final details on exactly what it is, but I've read what I think is going to be the final version of the law. And it's a horrible law for a property owner, any property, including single family houses or condos. You're in trouble if you own property in the city of Oxnard. In fact, I think it's going to be devastating for the tenants in the city of Oxnard. I think it's going to be bad for everybody in the city of Oxnard, except for a small subset of people that are already in a place at low rent, which is not that many people. So anyway, that's my opinion. I'm getting smart on that, but city of Oxnard, new rules, that's all I want you to know for right now, is that it's way more restrictive. And if you want to kick someone out, you can still kick them out, but you have to give them 2 months free rent up front. You have to pay them in cash or $5,000, whichever is more. And you can only raise rent by 4% per year, whereas statewide it's 9% per year. So those are that's a huge change that is coming to the city of Oxnard, which I need to get smart on that. I'm not smart on that yet. Janet Sprisler is helping me out with that, but that's the next thing. But statewide, everywhere except for city of Oxnard, landlords have the advantage. There's no need to be afraid of your tenant. Get the right advice, do the legal things, and you'll be fine. And I'm a lawyer who does almost exclusively landlord tenant law right now, and I'm the only lawyer in the world who answers his own phone. If anyone ever wants to reach out to me, Rosie, can you tell me every time you call?
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I answer my phone. I'm the only lawyer who does answer his phone.
And I'm one of the only realtors that answers their phone too.
Oh, yeah.
There's a joke that realtors don't answer, and I'm like, anytime I can answer, absolutely. If I have to call you back, obviously there's times when that happens. You're in court, I'm in a meeting, but and funny enough, actually, the episode that aired this week was Janet talking about the new changes in Oxnard. So and we'll probably have her back after the ordinance goes into effect in June, right? Which is just around the corner. So
correct.
Definitely be involved, especially for those people that been renting very low and they think, oh, once you're out, the next person I'll raise it. Well, guess what? Guess what? You're stuck. And the next tenant you might not like. So
it's a huge change for the city of Oxnard.
Yes.
Which is huge. The city of Oxnard is, I think it's the biggest city in Ventura County by a pretty good margin. I don't know about Thousand Oaks, but I think it's bigger than Thousand Oaks. So city of Oxnard but it's only city of Oxnard though. There's places that call themselves Oxnard that are not city of Oxnard. So anyway, there's a whole discussion about that. But most of Ventura County, you're fine as a landlord as long as you're paying attention, following the law and getting the right advice. You don't have to be afraid of your tenant. You don't have to, keep rent low and, worry about your tenant doing something bad. You can get the right advice, and, you're in control if you're the property owner. Now's a great time to sell if you want to sell and you don't want to be a manager of a property anymore. If you're not capable of doing this, but you don't want to sell, get a property manager. Rosie, do you do property management as well?
I don't. I strictly specialize in real estate, and kind of like you have a niche and just so no, I've been asked about it, and it's like I absolutely, Janet's your person. I wouldn't even, with all due respect, refer that to a realtor that's doing multi, because the laws are so ever changing that if I'm going to refer someone, I want someone that's gonna get things done the way they should be. So all that my business is Janet for that.
I know several good property managers, including Janet Sprisler, who's good. And that's, if someone does not feel like they can drop the hammer on a bad tenant, hire a property manager and have that person drop the hammer on the tenant. That's fine. One thing that you'll never see is me having any problem kicking out a bad tenant. I will drop the hammer without a hesitation. So anyway,
absolutely. I mean, I've done a lot, especially this last year, when somebody wants to sell, then I've gotten involved with forms and evict them. And if they're cooperating, great. We've done the cash for keys and different incentives, to get them to cooperate and get them out and get it sold. As long as my seller's on board, but once we get any pushback or issue, it's here you go, right?
Yeah.
Onto you it goes, or get the professionals involved. But my strict focus is real estate, and I do these just as a benefit to my client. The ones that are thinking of selling, and also with the competitive market, right? Some people didn't want to sell because they didn't want to pay taxes. So I've had financial advisors on here talking about 1031 into the stock market, right? You can't find a house, or you don't want to be a landlord anymore. You're getting older. You don't want a property manager, whatever your reason. I mean, I just try to give my clients as many options as possible and resources. So
I think it's a great time to be a property owner. I mean, you still have a lot of, for one thing, the property market is at a historic high right now. So, you're in a good position. I don't think it's always, I think the property market's due to cool off a little bit, is my opinion. Interest rates are going up, but if you want to sell, now is a great time to sell. And I wouldn't just sell and pay taxes, because most property owners are sitting on top of huge gains. You're going to be giving 30 or 40% of that to the government unless you do something else with that money, exchange it, or find some other way to shield it from taxes. So anyway, it's a great time to be a property owner, but just treat it like a business and make smart decisions with your property. My philosophy, I'll share with you my philosophy, which is I never sell anything. That's my philosophy. I might exchange something one day. I might exchange, but I'm never going to sell it. So anyway, that's.
I've had other clients like that where they're, that's their retirement, but they get to a point where they can't manage it. So I have someone with a lot of properties that's getting in the process to 1031 into the market, but because it is a good time to sell, right? And if you don't sell now, it's another 10, 15 years. But definitely seeing the slowdown coming. So I'm actually being asked to speak here in the next couple of weeks about how it's here. So it's we're going to see the change real soon.
And it's a tough market right now in some ways, because if you want to buy a house or if you want to rent a house, it's hard because there's very little supply, very little things for you to buy, very little things for you to rent. And so that drives some of the conflict that I see is, tenants don't want to move out because there's no place to go. I hear that all the time. I don't have any place to go. I'd like to buy something, but there's nothing for me to buy. So it's very sad. I feel
competitive.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think the property market has cooled down at all yet. I mean, the prices have not gone down. It's interest rates.
Yes. Perfect. So Brian, if somebody needed to evict someone, or they're having issues evicting someone, whether with or without cause, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to reach me is by looking at, there you go. My phone number is the number one way to reach me. You can check out my website. You can read a little bit about me. I tell you where I was born and a few other fun facts about me on my website. But the best way is pick up the phone and give me a call. That phone number that you see right there, that's my mobile number. That's the only phone number for my office, which is my mobile number. I have it with me from morning to night. I do shut it off at night. But call me or text me, but probably better to call me. And I'm very responsive.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Well, I think that was a lot of great information. And hopefully that puts some hope in people that there is ways to get people out if they need to. Well, wonderful. Thank you again so much. And I look forward to being in touch.
It's a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you so much.
All right.